Hello all, I'm Wadabra. Welcome back to Adastra. In the last episode, Marco and Amicus got cuddly in the public baths. They talk a while about the conversation Marco had overheard between Cassius and Virginia about the state of the Empire and the possibility that the stretch drive may never be restored. Amicus does his best to put Marco's mind at ease, promising him that even if the wolves never get the stretch back, he'll make other arrangements, like with the Chemians, to get Marco back home. As they sit in the bath, Marco thinks Amicus might be flirting with him before they get interrupted by Neferu. Neferu and Amicus argue. Amicus pops a boner while pinning Neferu against the wall. Neferu calls Amicus a tail raiser, which is Wolven slang for being gay. Later, when they're back in their room, Marco asks Amicus if he is actually gay, and the two of them mutually come out to each other as the homosexuals they are. Quite the coincidence. After confirming that, no, Amicus and Neferu were not doing some sort of alien machismo mating ritual, Marco encourages Amicus to continue to try and build an alliance between the wolves and the Chemians through Neferu. Finally, Marco has another dream where he's floating in that endless void and has a short conversation with the voice again. It asks him if he thinks Amicus will do a good job as Emperor, and Marco admits that he's not entirely sure. That's the recap. Please remember to like and share this video for the glory of the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next episode. And as always, content warnings and a link to my Patreon can be found in the description below. Let's get started. I'm standing awkwardly in the bathroom while another wolf moves busily around me, making short, clipped comments about my odd shape and tiny stature. He's the first wolf I've seen that isn't part of the Imperial family, so I keep trying not to stare at him while he turns my head left and right, smudging a black substance on my face while he does. Meanwhile, Amicus stands behind us, his face showing a mixture of amusement and concern. I raise an eyebrow at him through the mirror, but he just shrugs in response.
Do not move your face, please.
I look straight ahead again, letting him smudge the black makeup on my face, still trying not to stare. He's hunched and droopy, wearing some type of monocle with flashing lights. The lens sticks out every now and then with a mechanical droning sound as he examines his work. Also, I'm in a dress. There's no getting around it. I'm in a blue, tight-fitting gown that's covered in intricate gold designs. It's beautiful, no doubt, but I'm not really one for dresses, and I feel my face heating up with embarrassment every time I look into the mirror. So instead, I focus on staring at the wall, or Amicus. So why aren't you getting dressed up?
Do not speak, please.
Me? Well, I'm already dressed the part of the Emperor.
Amicus fans out his cape with both paws. I start to roll my eyes, but stop myself before the wolf can yell at me again. I realize that he's painting black stripes on my face, and it immediately reminds me of tiger stripes. After that's done, he does the same to the exposed parts of my arms.
Remember not to touch or itch at your face. Also, keep your arms away from your body unless you want to ruin the fabric with powder.
The wolf finally steps back, giving a snort of approval before turning and stuffing his equipment into his bag.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And with that, the old wolf hurries out of the bathroom, leaving the two of us alone. I stand there a moment, staring at myself in the mirror, feeling like a circus attraction. I look awful. Amicus coughs and steps up quickly, resting upon my shoulder.
You look very good, actually. Very elegant.
I look up at the wolf and see him smiling at me. I don't know if he's just trying to make me feel better, but then again, I suppose wolves don't really have any idea of what human beauty standards are. I look at the black stripes on my face. Are these tiger stripes? Amicus raises his eyebrows.
Yes, actually. You have tigers on Earth.
Yeah. Is this like okay with them? Not offensive? It looks like a joke.
Offensive? Why would it be offensive? We're honoring Mira with this dance.
If you're sure.
Of course I'm sure. And you don't look like a joke. You look like a strong, beautiful Hindo tigress.
I sigh again, still awkwardly holding my arms away from the dress, feeling stiff. When does this all start?
Well, for me, in about 20 minutes. But for you, another hour or so.
All right. Anything I should expect before it starts?
Not much. The triumvirates will be watching through video link, so only Kato will be there to judge.
Oh.
Keep in mind that it will all be televised live to the rest of Adastra, so...
Amicus sees the look on my face.
Maybe I shouldn't have told you that?
All of Adastra? Live?
Don't worry, no one will actually be there in person, so just pretend, I guess?
Why did you just tell me that?
Well, I had planned on you watching the first half of the trial in the dining room. You'll know how everything is going until it's your turn.
I swallow hard.
I didn't mean to keep that from you. I just thought you might know this would be the case. The entire moon pays very close attention to these trials.
He's right. I guess I sort of did assume that would be the case. But now that it's actually happening, I feel like I'm gonna pass out. Maybe I'll get lucky and it'll happen when Mira dies during the dance.
Listen, you'll be fine. We'll win this, and before you know it, I'll be Emperor, and our problems will be over.
Again, the idea of having my way home all but guaranteed in the next hour. It reminds me of the thoughts I'd had last night. So, when I do get home, is that gonna be the last time I'll see you? The corners of Amicus's mouth twitch down in a frown, but only for a moment before he smiles again.
Well, I suppose that's up to you. With unlimited access to the stretch, I might be able to make visits every now and then. Would you like that?
I don't even have to think about it. Yeah. Amicus's smile widens.
I would as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're my friend, and I'd want to hear about the results of your empire. But then Amicus's smile falters, then turns into a frown. What? The wolf is quiet for a moment, then his ears flatten.
I, forgot the reason you're here in the first place.
For a moment, I don't know what he's talking about. Then I do. We're not even supposed to know each other exists. This whole thing is against the law. Oh, so I guess we wouldn't be able to do that, huh? Amicus bites his lip, then shakes his head.
We'll figure it out. But now is not the time for that. We have a trial to win.
Amicus turns to me and, after a little hesitation, pulls me into a quick side hug, carefully avoiding the black powder on my arm.
We'll talk more afterwards over a celebratory dinner, all right?
The absolute confidence and reassurance in Amicus's voice calms me just a little, and I manage a small smile. All right.
Good. And a, little more celebration after that, if you get my meaning.
I had almost forgotten about that. Amicus.
If you want.
Amicus chuckles before his ears perk up, his personal calm talking to him in a quiet, babbling sound.
All right, that's my cue. Head to the dining room if you'd like to watch. Otherwise, Calm will tell you when to leave for the throne room. All right?
I nod, and Amicus gives me one last pat on the shoulder before turning away. Good luck. I know you're gonna do great. Amicus waves at me before walking out the door, leaving me alone to wait. I move to the bed and sit down, carefully resting my arms out to the sides, wishing that they'd applied the makeup a little closer to the dance so I didn't have to walk around like a scarecrow. I realize pretty quickly that sitting here in silence is only making me more nervous, so I slowly get up, making my way to the main hall. As usual, the halls are empty. The only people living here are the Imperial siblings, Kato and Neferu. The old makeup wolf is the only other person that I've seen over the past 2.5 weeks that I've been here. It makes me think that I still want to see the city before I leave. If I leave. I block that thought from my brain, trying not to think of what might happen if these trials go poorly for us. Instead, I try to let the bright sunshine and fresh morning air calm my nerves. Eventually, I make my way to the dining room, and when I look in, I see Alex sitting on one of the beds. His ears perk up as he sees me, eyes widening in surprise.
Oh, hello, Marco. How are you?
He stares at my face, then down at my costume. I feel myself turning red, and I desperately wish that I had stayed in Amicus's room. I'm able to swallow the embarrassment down for now, though. I know Alex pretty well, after all. Where's your costume? At this point, I feel like I'm the only person being made to play dress-up. I sit down on the middle bed, not wanting to be directly across from the cat, where he'd have to stare at me.
Should I be in one?
I shrug. I don't know. They put me in one, obviously.
Obviously. And the powder, too.
I glare at Alex.
I mean, you look good. Very bold.
So why the hell aren't you dressed up as Mira? We're doing the same dance, right?
Well, yes. Although Cassius instructed that I be in my underwear. Actually, I think I'd prefer your situation.
Sure.
Seriously? You think I want all of Adastra to see my naked torso?
Alex hugs himself, shuddering.
It's so embarrassing.
I sigh and sit back on the bed, only now noticing that Cassius is on the screen, playing some sort of brass instrument that looks to be vaguely in the shape of a French horn. It sounds nothing like one, though. The volume is low, but I can hear the raspy, sputtering sound it's making. Not pleasant to my ear, but then the idea of what music and dance is seems to be very different from Earth. Well, I'd prefer being half naked. And if this is my introduction to the moon, why am I all covered up like this? I'm pretty sure they'd rather get a better look at what I actually look like. But as I'm saying that, I wonder if maybe that's why Amicus had me so covered up.
The dress looks very good, actually. It's the makeup that surprises me. I suppose it's very woven to do something like that.
I look at Alex, frowning. Woven? Is this offensive?
Maybe just a smidge, but not to the wolves, so you have nothing to worry about. The Hindos don't talk to Adastra anymore.
Oh my god. I want to bury my face in my hands, but I can't with all the makeup on. On top of that, it's all starting to itch. This is so stupid. Alex chuckles.
It really is. The wolves are so obsessed with spectacle and drama, which is why the trials are used instead of elections. Or even just sound judgment from a council.
Alex gestures up at one of the screens.
It's an Adastran holiday right now, so everyone can watch this.
Cassius has finished his little song, standing up and bowing. Along the right edge of the screen, 5 little boxes pop up, each one containing the faces of 3 wolves sitting solemnly side by side.
Though, in a way, the people are having a role in choosing their emperor here, with their elected triumvirates making the decisions. But then I don't understand why song and dance should apply.
So, why would Cassius and Amicus campaign if they're just going to be chosen through these trials?
Well, if the decision isn't clear, then why not choose the wolf that has the most popularity with your people? It increases the chance of re-election.
Amicus suddenly appears on screen, sitting down, a spotlight on him as he begins to blow into the same instrument. Again, that raspy blatting sound that would make me cringe if it were a human instrument at a human concert. I have no idea if he's better than Cassius or not.
And general popularity is good to have anyway. A happy people is usually a more peaceful and easy to control society.
So, Amicus is at a disadvantage then?
Unless he clearly outperforms Cassius.
I sigh, watching as the wolf's cheeks puff up each time he blows into his little horn, his eyes almost crossed with effort. I guess you elect your officials?
Yes.
So does most of... I find myself almost saying the name of my planet again. Our tribes. At least, I think that's what they are on the Simian planet. It's harder and harder to keep this secret from Alex, especially as our relationship has become more casual. I just have to hope that Alex doesn't actually look it up. But he continues on like he didn't notice my pause. Like he always does.
Anyway, despite the competition, I still consider you a friend, and I hope you feel the same. Maybe we can have lunch in the garden soon, no matter the result?
Yeah, let's do that.
Wonderful!
We sit in silence for another 10 or so minutes, watching as Amicus finishes his horn playing. Then Cassius takes the spotlight again, to begin singing. It's actually just howling. Cass's head leaned back, muzzle tipped toward the ceiling, looking just like a wolf on Earth as it howls to the moon. I think he's saying words, but I can't really understand, especially with the odd, high-pitched tone it has. Meanwhile, a little gauge pops up in the bottom screen, a needle going back and forth with the pitch of the howl.
They want that indicator to stay in the middle. It represents better control over their song.
It's short, only a few minutes before it's Amicus's turn, doing much the same as Cassius, except his howl is deeper, fuller. A lot better, I think. I also like to think that the needle stays in the middle more often than it had for Cassius, but I'm not sure. Toward the end of Amicus's song, Calm's voice crackles gently over our heads.
Alex, Marco, the dance begins in 5 minutes. Please proceed to the throne room doors.
My heart skips a beat as we both stand up, Alex leading the way to the hall. I wonder if he's nervous too. Even though he looks calm, his tail lashes back and forth as we walk. I don't try to talk to him, feeling like we're both a little preoccupied with our own thoughts right now. We get to the big double doors and wait side by side. Alex's paws are folded neatly in front of himself, so I do the same. I try to breathe evenly. I've never been good in front of big crowds, and even though it's technically only Kato in there, I can't forget the fact that millions of people are going to be watching.
Dance trial begins in 5, 4, 3, 2.
The doors slide open, and I find myself staring into a darkened throne room, the windows deeply tinted so that only a vague hint of sunlight comes through. I immediately see Amicus straight ahead of me, bathed in a bright spotlight. The same can be said for Cassius, about 10 meters to his right. Kato sits on the throne, just like in my dream. I also notice Virginia and Neferu sitting next to each other on one of the benches. That alone makes me even more nervous. But then a voice comes over the PA. Not calm, but someone else, sounding old and frail.
Presenting Pet Alexios from Moon Amorpha and Pet Marco from planet Simia.
Amicus and Cassius reach out one paw, and Alex starts to walk forward on his toes, looking light and sophisticated. I quickly follow suit, trying to sort of mimic his walk. I'd never practiced my entrance with Amicus. I start to wonder if I'm even more underprepared than I thought I was. No time to think about that now. I do the best I can with my stupid, prancing walk before coming to a stop in front of Amicus, reaching out a hand to rest in his big paw. He smiles reassuringly down at me, and for some reason, his presence makes me a little less nervous than I had been while waiting alone for the trial to start. We stand there quietly for a moment, but then that old voice starts up again, but now it's in a howl, high, wavering, and faint.
Explorand advar viro.
He starts to recite the story in the same howl, but it's hard to hear, and now there are words. Wait, I can't understand it. He's speaking. Oh, fuck. The lingua isn't translating the song. Immediately, I start to panic as I see Amicus raise up his paw. I probably have a look of horror on my face because his reassuring smile has turned to a frown. Jerkily, I raise my hand up to touch it to the wolf's paw, trying to stay calm. I can do this. Sure, I attached a lot of the movements to the words in the song, but I remember the order of the poses, I think. Still, the unexpected blunder has me flustered and stumbling, my movements hesitant and definitely unelegant. I'm so frazzled that I don't really have time to dwell on the fact that Alex and Cassius are doing the dance at the same time. Are we competing for Kato's and the watching triumvirate's attention? I try to stay focused on Amicus, watching his movements, hoping that I might remember enough of his cues to get through all of the movements correctly. My falling apart must be affecting Amicus as well, his brow furrowed in confusion, his movements also becoming slower, more hesitant. Fuck! I think I feel sweat running down my face, probably turning my striped makeup into a streaked mess. Several times, I'm caught staring at Amicus, unsure of what to do until I look over at Alex to see what he's doing. The cat looks totally in his element, stretching and elongating his body luxuriously in tandem with Cassius. The wolf isn't bad himself, taking the clear lead in the dance as he dips and sways with Alex's body. Meanwhile, I'm fumbling around with Amicus, watching as the powder on my sweaty arm smears on his fur, leaving long black smudges on his chest and arms. Finally, we get to Mira's death, and at least I know when this is supposed to happen, because I see Amicus reach out dramatically for me. This is the only moment in the entire dance that I feel confident in what I'm doing, and I put everything into my swoon. But so does Alex. Amicus is already next to me to catch me before I can start to fall, but Alex swoons while Cassius is still meters away from him, but the other wolf smoothly glides to his side to catch him. Alex lay there in Cassius's arms, splayed out dramatically, looking somehow serene and distressed at the same time. The spotlight almost makes the pair glitter, and even I feel like there's a good deal of chemistry between the two of them. There had been a small but definite hope on my end that Alex might help us out here, maybe throw the dance in our favor with a fall or stumble. But it looks like he's putting everything into the performance. Cassius, despite his reputation for being weak, looks strong and confident, easily supporting Alex's weight as the cat dips further toward the ground. At the same time, the wolf's howl reaches a new pitch, the climax of the story. And that's when Alex turns his head to Cassius for a deep, passionate kiss. Even though Mira's supposed to be gone at this point, Alex reaches up to caress Cassius's face, pulling him in deeper. Meanwhile, their bodies press closely together, Cassius very clearly grinding his hips against the cat's, the paw that's not supporting Alex instead running up his thigh, before dipping under Alex's underwear, pushing it up until most of the cat's thigh is showing. And they just writhe against each other like that, as if caught in the throes of passion, the movements of their muzzles telling me that a lot is going on past those lips. The entire act stuns me, almost making me forget about the disaster that our own dance had been. Cassius turns, carrying Alex with him as he faces them in the other direction, never breaking the kiss. In fact, their groping and grinding gets even more intense. He's giving everyone a good view of what's happening. If the whole idea of the dance is to capture attention and make the story and feelings believable, well, I believe them. In fact, I believe there's a lot more going on between the two of them than I'd originally thought. That might explain why Alex wouldn't want to hurt Cassius's chances of becoming emperor. Maybe my hopes that Alex would help us were completely naive. And that's when I'm suddenly snapped back to reality as I hear Amicus grunt above me. I'd been so enamored with Cassius and Alex's kiss that I'd forgotten our own. Seeing a preview of what I might have to do with Amicus, though, I blush, steeling myself, getting ready as the wolf starts to lean down toward me, his lips puckered up slightly. I ready my own lips, but then suddenly Amicus turns his head to the side slightly, landing the kiss on my cheek instead. It's soft and fleeting, and before I know it, Amicus is pulled back before gently lowering me to the cold marble below. I recognize the word Adastra in the howl before everything goes quiet. I hear Alex getting up just a few feet away, so I do the same, Amicus quickly hurrying over to help me up in my dress. It's only then that I see the various drones floating around above us, the attached lenses making me realize that they're cameras. I quickly duck my head, not wanting the people to see the smeared, offensive makeup on my face. Amicus holds me close to his side, not saying anything, thankfully. Cassius continues to look straight ahead, and I can see Alex glancing at us, looking confused. Then Com's voice.
The triumvirates have made their decisions. Lupus. Cassius. Adrode. Cassius. Lux. Cassius. Jebi. Cassius. Tricelli. Cassius. Adastra.
The camera drones swivel to focus on Kato. He shifts on his throne before grunting out his answer.
Cassius.
The trial has been decided. Cassius is the victor.
There's a moment of stunned silence. Then the windows untint and the camera drones lazily drift away up into some ceiling compartment. I'm left standing there, looking around at the others. Kato is walking down the steps from the throne in the direction of Cassius. Meanwhile, Virginia is whispering to Neferu behind a fan she's casually waving in front of her face. Cassius is petting Alex's head, murmuring to him under his breath. Finally, Amicus stands awkwardly to my side, not even looking at me, his paws behind his back and his eyes on Kato. I suddenly realize again how stupid I look. Can I go change? I mumble to Amicus, keeping my voice low like everyone else, as if we're in a library or something.
Sure. Do you want?
I don't let him finish. I'm walking as fast as I can to the double doors, knowing that everyone's eyes are on my back as I pause to touch the black panel. Once I'm in the main hall, I'm able to breathe a little easier, starting to feel the anger coming up through the absolute humiliation. I don't know exactly what I'm angry at. Not Amicus, even though he maybe should have had an idea that howls don't translate. Not Kato or the triumvirates. They made the right decision. I'd been a complete disaster out there. I guess I'm just mad at this whole system. That the responsibility of getting home rests on me just as much as the guy that got me here in the first place. It isn't fair. So, I guess I am pissed at Amicus in a way. But the anger is a lot broader than that. I'm angry at the entire situation. I go straight to the bathroom, roughly trying to yank off the stupid dress. It's tight around my neck, and I spend the next minute doing an awkward dance, trying to find the buttons on the back so I can loosen it. Eventually, I just rip it off, before wiggling out of the dress, feeling a little guilty only after I see the beautiful fabric crumpled up on the ground. I stand there, breathing heavily, sweaty and hot. I look in the mirror, and I'm a little surprised to see the makeup still mostly intact on my face. Which reminds me, I'm also pissed that the first time I get paraded out to the public, it's in a racist costume and makeup. I get in the shower, letting the hot water run over my face, feeling a little better now that I'm alone with my thoughts, and out of the tight dress. Still, my mood is a bit dark. I guess now I can actually start to consider that I might be living here forever. While my mind initially rejects the idea, I guess it's not the worst fate. I'll at least be living in a palace with Amicus, and I know he'd take care of me. At least, I think he would. Maybe this whole pet thing is temporary, and if he loses the trials, he'll just throw me out with the trash. Maybe kill me like you'd once mentioned on the ship. Under my gloomy contemplations, though, I know that's not the case. He wouldn't do that. But I can't promise myself that I'd be able to keep friendly with him if things really do go south. He'd told me this would be easy so many times. Even if the lingua hadn't messed up, I doubt we still would have won. After a good half hour, I finally get out of the shower. I stand in front of the fans for a bit, enjoying the way it whips my hair around before I pick up some underwear off of the hook and tie it on. I'm pretty fast at doing that now, not even having to think about it. Finally, I open the door. The cool air that rushes in is refreshing after such a hot shower, but I'm immediately treated to the sight of Amicus walking away from the door, probably in the middle of pacing. He immediately turns around at the sound, though, his eyes wide.
Hey, Marco, how are you?
Great. I walk over to the dresser, opening the drawer that's full of children's robes.
Really?
Sure. I hear Amicus huff behind me.
Please, I don't want to deal with that mood of yours right now. I just want to talk.
That's fair, but him telling me to stop sulking is just making me sulkier. You know, I would have loved to just talk like a week ago about this stupid trial. Imagine how much better it would have gone if I'd actually memorized the dance, rather than just following cues from you and the song. I whip out a robe. Which, by the way, isn't a song. You always make fun of Earthlings and our primitive ways, but at least we actually have a variety of music. Oh, and we can actually sing. Not those creepy howling sounds that sound like you're dying. Amicus frowns at me, his ears flat.
You're upset.
No. What made you think that?
Stop it, Marco. I'm just as upset and disappointed as you probably are. Was it the cameras? Maybe Kato that made you nervous? What happened?
I'm quiet for a moment as I start tying on my robe. Then suddenly Amicus's paw reaches out, grabbing my right hand and yanking it away from my clothing. What?
What happened to your paw?
I look up and see the wolf staring at the palm side of my hand with wide eyes before turning it this way and that. What?
Your skin it's bunching up. Are you having a reaction to the powder?
I stare at him, confused before pulling my hand away to look at my pruny fingers. No, I was just in the shower too long. My skin does that when I'm wet for a long time.
I've never noticed that before.
You take short showers. The wolf frowns at me, then snatches my hand up again to stare at the fingers in fascination, even as I try to yank it back. At that point, I feel my mood about to take a turn in one of two directions. Either exploding at Amicus in frustration and anger over everything, or just laughing. And I find myself doing the latter, chuckling at first before letting out a loud guffaw. Amicus gives me a strange look, finally letting me go.
Are you sure you're all right? You're worrying me.
I sigh as I finish tying on my robe before flopping back onto the bed, hands above my head as I let the pleasant, cool air drift down from the ceiling to blanket my body. I know I'm going to get cold in a few minutes, but for now it feels good. remember how you said the lingua has trouble translating some things?
Yes,
I hear the wolf pause as he figures out what went wrong. Heard nothing but wailing Latin in that howling noise. I had no idea what I was doing.
Oh, gods.
There's a heavy thump, and I feel the mattress crater and tilt sideways a bit as Amicus sits down next to me. So yeah.
Marco, I'm so sorry. I didn't even contemplate that possibility.
It's fine. I don't think either of us could have.
I mean, I've listened to music from the Cats before, and I've never had an issue with lyrics translating.
I shrug. I don't know. Doesn't the lingua try to translate intention too? Maybe I'm meant to hear the true language when you guys sing. It was happening while you were doing your song, even though I didn't realize it then.
Oh, you heard me sing.
I can hear the embarrassment in Amicus's voice. Yeah, it sounded fine, honestly. I was just being a dick earlier.
I know.
But still, I'm tired of you trashing on human culture.
I know.
And I knew that makeup was offensive, by the way. I looked like an idiot for all of Adastra to see.
You looked good.
I turned my head toward the wolf. Oh, really? Fumbling around like an idiot with no clue of what he's doing looks good? Amicus stays quiet this time. I stare back up at the ceiling. I guess at least I'm keeping up the dumb, primitive ape act, right? Amicus just sighs, getting up. I watch as he slowly walks over to the sofa to sit down.
I have to say that although you are a very kind, intelligent person, you're very frustrating when you get into these moods.
Frustrating?
Just so gloomy and self-defeating. You remind me of Cassius sometimes.
I pull a face. Since when is he self-defeating? He seems pretty full of himself to me.
You don't know the real Cass. He very much dislikes himself.
Also, don't compare me to your brother. I really don't want to be thinking about him right now.
I'm just saying, I prefer you in lighter spirits. It suits you more.
I'll work on it. A long silence goes by, and with the way that Amicus is shifting around, I can tell that he wants to ask me something. What is it?
Well, I guess that little celebration is out of the question now.
The dinner? I sit up suddenly, giving him an incredulous look. Seriously?
Whoa, I was just kidding.
We just lost the trial. You're one trial away from losing the emperorship, and you're seriously thinking about that?
I was just having a bit of fun.
No, you want a pity handy.
It's not like I need you to do it. I can get the job done myself.
Then do it.
I will.
Amicus sits there huffily, not making eye contact. I sigh, remembering what the wolf had said about improving my mood. I often criticize Amicus for his tantrums, reminding him that it won't help us to sulk. It's kind of hypocritical that I don't hold myself to the same standards. Sorry, I've just got a lot on my mind, obviously.
Listen, I know this went much differently than what we had planned, but I will certainly win the next trial. I've debated Cassius many times before.
Do I have to do anything?
Other than watch? No.
When is it?
2 weeks from now.
You'd better win.
I will.
I sigh again, realizing that the knot I've had in my stomach the past few weeks has a bit longer to stick around. And I might still. I make a jacking motion in the air. Later on. I'm just not in the right state of mind right now.
I understand. It was too early to make light of things. Though, maybe we could do something else that would make us both feel better.
Something else?
Yes, like, I could just hold you?
Amicus's voice gets uncharacteristically high on the last word. Hold me. I repeat his words. Why would you want to do that?
Well, companionship is part of pet duties. And holding or embracing is often how it is expressed. It might also be comforting to you, considering how stressful the past few hours have been.
Again, that hopeful look, and again I actually feel bad for him. How lonely do you have to be to just want to cuddle someone? But at the same time, I want to. I might not want to admit it, but I've also been lonely these past 3 weeks, emotionally and physically. Also, I've really liked our short hugs, so for a longer one. Trying not to look too eager myself, I sigh and stand up. Amicus's ears immediately perk up in happy surprise. He leans back, legs together, waiting as I walk up to him.
Do you...
I sit down in his lap, a little awkwardly at first as I wobble around, then finally settle on turning sideways, knees drawn up as I lean my shoulder against his chest. Amicus pauses, then wraps his arms around me. Despite the awkward start, I'm amazed at the way I just sort of fit against the curve of his body. His big, furry arms envelop me, and I feel the muscles tighten briefly before relaxing. His soft stomach cushions against my side, making it feel as if I'm leaning against a big, furry but firm waterbed. His chest is broad and thick, propping my head up comfortably as he scoots his butt out a bit to help us better recline. Then he tucks my head under his chin, and just like that, I'm surrounded by his warmth. The cold that had started to bite at my bare skin disappearing immediately. I feel a little thrill in my chest at the feeling of having this wolf, so large and powerful, hug and cuddle me so gently. Something about that is so... nice. Amicus just holds me in silence for a while, and I feel his paw shift around a bit, like he's kneading through the robe to the skin on my back. Finally, his deep voice rumbles through his chest and against my ear.
Is this all right?
Yeah, this is... fine. I blush, embarrassed at how much I'm enjoying this. Originally, I just wanted to make him feel better, but he was right about this making me feel better. Amicus rubs his chin down against the top of my head, and I hear him inhale.
I suppose this isn't a normal thing to do on Earth.
Well, it is if you're dating someone. It's not a usual thing with friends, though.
Ah.
Amicus paws at me a bit more, making those tiny movements as if he's trying to feel me as much as possible, without being obvious about it.
What is dating on your planet?
I shrug, though it's hard to do against the wolf's tight embrace. Just asking someone you like out on a date. Basically, it just means that you like the person and you want to know more about them, and dating helps you do that.
Ah. Sounds fairly casual. So how does one initiate dating?
I don't know. Just ask them. Give them flowers if you're old-fashioned. But it's pretty casual, honestly. Why are you so curious? It's Amicus's turn to shrug.
I always want to be careful about your boundaries. It's easier when I understand your culture better.
I lean against the wolf, realizing that even though I just made a complete fool out of myself just half an hour earlier, I feel fine. I kind of hope that this isn't the last time we do something like this. Knowing Amicus, it likely won't be. Welcome to the after reading, where I briefly discuss some thoughts I had while making this episode. The first thing I want to draw attention to is something the visual novel has only teased us with, and that's the fact that all the aliens we've met or heard of so far have a cultural counterpart on Earth. The wolves uplifted Rome, Alexios seems to be Greek, Neferu seems to be Egyptian, and Mira seems to represent the Harappan civilization. This seems to imply that Earth was visited multiple times by multiple siblings throughout history, and likely none of them have a proper record of it, just like the situation that led Amicus to kidnapping Marco. This seems to imply that the parents have something special planned for humans in this galactic game they're playing, and we've yet to find out what it is. Next, I want to touch on the fight Amicus and Marco have after losing the first trial. As odd as it may seem, this scene does a good job of showing the resilience of their, as of now, friendship. Marco has every right to be angry at Amicus. Had they practiced properly, things undoubtedly would have gone much smoother for them. But because Amicus both has a crush on Marco and is riddled with internalized homophobia, Amicus didn't feel right about doing the dance and put it off until the last minute. It says a lot about Marco's character that even though he's angry about this, he still chooses to talk things out with Amicus, after being a bit moody for a while. And after being publicly humiliated like that, the boy deserves to be moody for a while. I also want to award some good friendship points to Amicus in this as well. After finding out the cause of the blunder during the dance, Amicus accepts that this was a possibility that he had not foreseen, and that the failure rests on him. He doesn't get defensive, or try to gaslight, or shut Marco out. He just wants to talk it out and make sure Marco is okay. It's kind of the bare minimum, really, but you'd be shocked how infrequent this sort of willingness to communicate is depicted in media. I'll also give him bonus points during their cuddle session when he takes the moment to check in with Marco to make sure that being held and having his back caressed is something that he's okay with. This is important for any relationship where there's physical intimacy, since everyone brings with them their own expectations and their own boundaries. Again, this is sort of basic stuff, but again, it's still uncommon to see this sort of communication in media. While still on the subject of Amicus, it's also important to keep in mind that, even though Amicus seemingly has an endless amount of unearned confidence in himself and his abilities, he's royalty and a bit of a spoiled brat. So, of course he's going to have warped sensibilities. On top of that, he also lives an isolated existence in a lonely palace where he's never had the opportunity to successfully navigate a non-professional relationship with a non-family member. So he's really starting at a disadvantage when it comes to dealing with Marco and the feelings that he's been developing. So, with all that in mind, Amicus is actually doing much better than most people would in his situation. Most would just turn out like Cassius. Last, let's talk about that cuddle session. Or, more specifically, the way it made Marco feel. For the past 3 weeks, he's been living in the same lonely palace Amicus has been living in his entire life. And he's begun to feel the sting of chronic loneliness too, emotionally and physically. I think this is something that most of us can relate to on some level too, since this sort of loneliness is everywhere around us in the real world. Like the Imperial Palace, our society is seemingly designed to be lonely. At school, we learn to compete with each other instead of working together cooperatively. The games we play for fun are mostly competitive. We're competitive in the places in which we work. And if you live in an area with an HOA, even our own neighbors become antagonistic forces as we police each other. Our very culture looks down on you if, as an adult, you do the smart thing and continue to live with a social support system that is your family, instead of fucking off to live in a lonely, isolated pocket somewhere where you have to build all your relationships from scratch. Historically, this is not how human families have operated. It's very unnatural and detrimental to our mental health as members of a social species. Marco eventually realizes, after he's cuddled up nicely in Amicus's embrace, that even though he'd agreed to do this for Amicus's sake, he feels better too. That's the power of trust and connection, even just among friends. So those are my rambling thoughts from this episode. How will Marco and Amicus continue to navigate their relationship from here? Find out in the next episode of Adastra. If you enjoyed this video, remember to give it a like, share it with fellow degenerates, and leave a comment for the almighty YouTube algorithm. Until next time, thanks for watching.